Hi, this is Kaitlin Sandeno, and you are listening to the Ask the Masters podcast.
As we continue to celebrate the women's soccer team's victory at the World Cup this year, the topic of women in sports is transcending all of the stereotypes. This week I sit down with gold medal swimmer Kaitlin Sandeno to talk about her journey to Olympic champion and life after the Olympics. We discuss her embracing the status of role model and the significance of becoming one of the first female general managers in pro sports history. Stay tuned as we have a bit of fun on this week's episode. Hello and welcome to the Ask the Masters podcast. This podcast is dedicated to discussions about the design and construction of water shapes. The hosts of the show are all certified SWD masters who represent the leading builders and designers within the water shaping industry today. Welcome into a very special episode of Ask the Masters today. We're going to be taking a little bit of a break from some of our technical conversations. We have the opportunity to have Olympic gold medal swimmer Kaitlin Sandeno in with us, and such a pleasure to have you here. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me. It's a blast.
So tell us a little bit about your Southern California native,
yes.
and how you ended up in the pool, and just a little bit about your background and how you got into swimming.
Yeah, definitely. I was born and raised Lake Forest, California. I had a huge love of the water from a really young age. My parents joked that they couldn't even get me out of the bathtub. That's how much I just enjoyed being in the water. As soon as I was walking, I was going off the diving board with no fear, just wanted to keep repeating that over and over again. My dad would be there catching me, helping me swim to the side, and around it went. I'm the youngest of three. My older sisters are 11 and 13 years older than me. And I do think a lot of my athletic prowess came from that age difference because I wanted to keep up with my older sisters.
Sure.
So I was going to swim meets. Gosh, I was like 2 weeks old when I went to my first swim meet because my sister was competing in it, right? So I was around the sport from such a young age, and it was only natural for me to jump into that sport when the time was right. So at 5 years old, I joined a summer league swim team with the Lake Forest Sharks, and just have extremely fond memories of summer league swimming. Just such a community feel, and everybody was happy and excited to be there. And if we did well, we'd run to the snack bar and, all the important things at a young age. But I was also just a huge tomboy. I loved all sports, very athletic, couldn't sit still. You name it, I wanted to do it. And my parents 100% supported that, and they wanted that. And they thought that, there's more to life than just swimming. So let's see everything that she likes to do and what she doesn't like to do. And, my dad has all girls, and he would laugh that I was the son he never got because I was asked to be on a boys flag football team. I was on a boys soccer team. I played boys water polo because there wasn't women's water polo at the time. Mm-hmm. So I could hang with the guys pretty well. And, I was a good swimmer at a young age, a lot of talent in the pool, but nothing earth-shattering, I would say. I was very small for my age. I was pretty short and really, really skinny, really thin. And so all the bigger, more mature girls were always faster than me. So it wasn't until about 13, 14 years old where I started getting a little bit more height and some muscle on, and people started seeing my talent. I was still playing soccer at the time. Those are the two sports that it came down to. And I was probably equally as good in soccer as I was in swimming. But my swim coaches, what's the right word? Encouraged or embraced the fact that they thought I could be even better had I picked one sport. Sure. So they nicely nudged me out of soccer and then full-time swimming when I got to high school. And great things just kind of started happening after that. I would say come from the best swimming family because my parents know nothing about swimming. Just super, super supportive and, bending over backwards to get me to the swim practices, the swim meets, but also, again, maintaining that, just the balance in life. I was class president from grade school up into high school and was involved in yearbook and clubs on campus and had a lot of friends outside of the sport as well. And just family always came first. And fast swimming happened when I was just doing what I was told and worked hard in the pool and did the right things out of the pool and ended up making my first Olympic team at 17 years old.
Wow. Yeah, I remember that Olympics. That was a fun one. Yeah. You were kind of the star of the Olympics that year.
It's kind of surreal, to think at 17 to have that pressure or pedestal or however you want to put it. That's when I first started feeling all eyes on me when I was on the pool deck at the 2000 Olympic trials. I was 17, and I had only made my first international meet the summer before when I was 16. Oh, wow. And that was the meet that it clicked in my own head that I was good. I think other people were saying, oh, she can make the Olympics, or she's really good, or she's our next thing. and I was just kind of like doing my thing, And then at that meet, it was the 99 Pan American Games in Winnipeg, Canada. And I won my first 2 events and broke 2 Pan American records. And that's when the light bulb went off. That was like, okay.
I can do this.
Yeah, and my parents were always like just so supportive, and my coaches were so cool because they got it. Like we were a smaller club team, especially for this area. But we had fantastic coaches, and they had been there before. They had been at that level, and they knew what type of kid I was. So we didn't talk about the Olympics very much. We had one meeting, and my coach was like, "Do you want to train for the Olympics?" I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And we never talked about it again. We just upped some of the morning workouts, kept doing what we were doing in the pool as far as mileage or yardage. I was already training a lot. I was a distance swimmer, so I just put in the yardage, and great things continued to happen, and just swam like every event because you never know what you're good at if you don't try it. So we go to swim meets and see what I could put together. And then, it was that meet that I realized I had some potential, and then went for it at Olympic trials and ended up qualifying in 3 individuals. And at that time was a little bit more uncommon than it is now, and especially the versatility that I had between the different events, the 400 IM, the 200 fly, the 800 freestyle. So it was a pretty surreal experience, not only to make the Olympics, but then to go to Australia, because in Australia, swimming is the sport to be in. So the pressure and the eyes on that were pretty surreal.
Yeah, I mean, that's always kind of the 2 rivalry nations,
Yes.
It's the Australians and the Americans, and
Definitely.
who's going to win this year.
Definitely. And at that time, Australia was really, really strong. I mean, I feel like in general, obviously I'm biased. USA is always very strong. I will say Australia has had some seasons recently where they're not as strong as they used to be, but in 2000, they were tough, and they had the big names. So that was a huge rival moment in swimming, kind of just history.
Yeah, so talk about a little bit, swimming is such an individual sport.
Yes.
How are rivalries like that built in that? It's all, it seems to be very personal, but yet you have kind of the team component, you're representing the United States in that. And so talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, even the way you're explaining it, it's like, it's surreal. It's a different event. I just spent Sunday just like fangirling over the soccer team, right? And it's like, okay, that is a team event. But like as an American, I feel like I'm on that team watching them, right? And I think that's how it is for swimming. It's like, it's such an individual sport, unless you're on a relay, which not a lot of people get to be on the relays. So I feel like when you have that cap with the American flag on it, that's when it becomes a team sport. Or for me at USC, when you're wearing that logo, that's what it embodies. But when you're getting down to the race, it's you, it's on you. All the hard work you did is what's going to come out, and your reward is going to be what you put in. And ultimately, that's what I liked about swimming compared to soccer. I liked that it was all on me. I loved being a soccer player. I loved being on a team. But on soccer, it goes through how many people before it goes into the goal.
Sure.
When it comes to swimming, that gold medal is, obviously it takes a village. I know it wasn't just me, but that day I put my hand on the wall and I came out with these medals. So it's an interesting sport. A lot of, to a lot of people, they find training boring. And it is. I'll be the first person to say it. It is tedious. That's a better word. Very politically correct. You're following that black line up and down the bottom of the pool, but there's something very serene about it. It's very graceful. It's very smooth. It's very strong. It's very explosive. Full body workout. I'm proud to be a swimmer, but there's it takes a unique person to be able to put their head on the water and just keep going.
Yeah, I'm reading a book, I don't know if you've heard, it's called The Blue Mind.
No.
It's a really, really cool book talking about the psychology of water. And they're
neat.
studying brain science and being
neat.
near water and everything. And, Michael Phelps was interviewed in there, and he talked about just the rhythm of the breathing.
Yes.
and how it becomes somewhat... what's the word I'm looking for? Like meditational.
I was going to say, it's pretty therapeutical. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And when you find that cadence and when you feel good and when you're in that rhythm, it's a really incredible feeling. And I remember always dreading Saturday morning workout because it was like 3 hours long. But the feeling after that, like after you get out and after you get out of like a cold pool, and it's just, it's hard to put the words in for it. It's a very unique workout.
Yeah. So, it's a perfect transition into ISL. I mean, we're talking a little bit about, team and individual. And so, for those of us that don't really know too much about ISL, can you kind of talk to us about it? And then I really want to explore the team aspect there, because I don't understand that at all.
Definitely. So ISL stands for International Swimming League. I am proud to say that this is our first year. And the way I explain it to non-swimmers is it's the NFL for swimming. Okay, so swimming is popular every 4 years for about 2 weeks because of the Olympics. But not only is it popular, it is the most popular. There's the stats to show it. Everybody is just focused in on the swimming. They're not missing the swimming. Even when I come home, everybody's like, oh, I love swimming. I never missed one race of swimming. It's like, why don't we have that excitement every year?
Right.
Because we do have a meet that competitive every summer. It's just not called the Olympics. It's called something else. But we are sending our nation's fastest swimmers to compete against the world. This summer is called World Championships. It's either Pan American Games or the World Champs. Like there's always a meet to that competition, but nobody really cares. So the goal of ISL is to elevate our swimmers in our sport. So we're going to have a professional swimming league that consists of 4 American teams and 4 European teams. I'm proud to be a GM for the DC Trident.
I know, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Very, very honored and thrilled for this role. And you nailed it. We want to embrace the team environment more as well. So now being DC Trident, we have a fan base of DC fans that are so excited that they have a professional swimming team so they can rally behind it. Now we went through a process of recruiting athletes, primarily Americans, but I do have other swimmers from other nations on my team. Now our athletes will be representing obviously the US when they're on these swim meets, but throughout the season, they'll be representing each ISL team that they were selected for. So this league is only for professional swimmers. They can't be in college, they can't be in high school unless they want to forego their eligibility. Okay. So this is what I feel like is missing in our sport is what do you do after college?
What do you do after the Olympics?
Well, yeah, and that's the second question, right? And the timing of it, and how do you financially survive being a quote unquote professional swimmer? Right. Because the opportunities are few and far between, unless you're Katie Ledecky or Caleb Dressel, and even so, the names are so strong in the swimming community, but they're not household names. So why would anybody want to sponsor them or give them exposure or pay them that sponsorship? So we're trying to elevate that. We want these swimmers to get the attention, the recognition that they deserve. I'm not discrediting any sport, but I think swimming is one of the hardest sports, and their swimmers train, like you said, tedious hours, and the amount of self-discipline and the work that goes into it is extraordinary, and they deserve more. So this is what we're hoping to be the first step in advancing our sport on a grander scheme, if you will.
So will you be holding meets in the cities where the teams are located?
Yeah,
How's that?
So I've been kind of describing this year as a condensed season, if you will, just because of A, it's the first season, and it's a startup essentially, and B, because it is the summer before the Olympics. So we didn't want to throw too much to these athletes that their goal is 2020 Olympics, and we don't want ISL to change that. We're not trying to take away anything from the Olympics. We want this just to be another opportunity for, going into 2020 to help their platform, help their social media, help get them more recognition. So these opportunities for sponsors or appearances or clinics, et cetera, can present themselves. So these meets this year, there'll only be 3 for each team. So there's actually going to be 6 in general because there's 2 different brackets. And then there'll be a 4th if you qualify for finals. And for finals, it's the top 2 scoring teams for the Americans and the Europeans, and they are putting in a temporary pool in Mandalay Bay in Vegas for the finals in December. Yes. So the other meets will be held for seasons to come. We'll have host cities doing the meets this year because of pool space and kind of the timing of everything and what we want for production quality and indoor pool versus outdoor pool. And we're doing short course meters, and Americans usually do yards, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll have our first meet will be at IUPUI, which is just an legendary pool facility in Indianapolis. It's actually where I qualified for my first Olympic team.
Oh, wow. That's fun.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty surreal to go back to that setting. And then from there, we fly straight to Naples, Italy. and we will have our first international competition over there, which obviously everybody's thrilled to be over there for a while. And then we'll take about a month break, and then we'll have what they're calling the American Derby, where it'll be just the American teams racing against each other, and that will be held at the University of Maryland. So for me, that's kind of like a home meet, just being kind of in our backyard there. And then, like I said, the finals will be in December and Vegas, and then years moving forward, there'll be more meets, more locations, and then we'll just keep building from year to year.
So since it's European and American based, will you be a lot of travel back and forth?
It seems like it. This first year we only have the one, but for example, I had a meeting for ISL in Antalya, Turkey in February, so it's been pretty, it's a surreal experience for me. I mean, being a swimmer, I think I'm pretty used to structure and everything's pretty black and white. I've never been a part of a startup before at this magnitude. So for me, I'm learning a ton, learning so much more of that on the business side. And I'm thrilled to be a part of it, but I'm learning as I go as well. I'm still relatively young in this kind of industry and wearing this hat. And the biggest responsibility, or the thing that I want to focus on the most, is the relationship with my athletes, being the GM. I mean, we have so many different people at different roles, but I want them to always have an open line of communication, trust. I want it to be transparent. The swimmer has to come first. We have to put their needs first. I don't want them to do anything they don't feel comfortable doing. And they needed to see our vision. We're doing something unique where we're doing most favored nations. We are paying every single one of our swimmers the exact same salary. Because that's what we feel is right. We're in this generation where that's such a hot topic. So when I was given this toolbox of saying you have X amount of dollars, use it how you want to get your athletes, I wasn't like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to pay this person 20 grand. I'm going to pay this person 5 grand. It was like, okay, well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm divided by a team. And then it's on them because there's bonus money. So if they win, they get that. If they get second, they get that. So that's on them to make that extra little paycheck, right? But this is a team, and to function as a team, I believe everybody needs to be, compensated equally.
Sure.
And then we'll go from there. We'll try to build the sponsorship opportunities and build their brand and help them, because a lot of swimmers don't have representation or agents or managers. So they're kind of out there just lost. So with my experience and people that I have on my staff, if we could help them, that's even more of a bonus, I believe.
Yeah, we're in a really interesting time for women in sport.
Yes.
And I mean, it's just, I living in Southern California, I've grown up surfing, and the World Surf League for 2019, they announced that their male and female athletes earn the same. Prize money is the same.
Incredible.
And, and the fact that, congratulations to you to become one of the, the first prominent general managers of a professional sport.
Yeah,
I mean,
thank you. It's pretty surreal.
It is. And just how cool is that? It's, I've been married to my wife for 23 years, and the insights that she has into things are so different than what I have. And just hearing you talk a little bit about, just the athletes first in that, and not that there aren't men that have that, but women just have a different perspective.
Yeah,
and I think it's time for, for that to be promoted within sport.
100%. I will say I'm proud of swimming in general. I feel like celebrates the athletic achievements of male and female equally.
Sure.
But that's not to say the compensation is, but also swimming doesn't have a lot of compensation either.
Right.
So we're kind of working with a twofold here. It's, it's like I just want to be able to help these athletes not have to worry about financial opportunities when they're training for the Olympics.
Right.
Like a lot of these swimmers have to get jobs and like abnormal jobs. And I mean, who can hire somebody that needs to be like, okay, well, I have 3 hour workout in the morning, then I need to eat, and I probably need to take a nap. But then I have like a window of like 2 hours I can maybe work from you. And then I have to go to afternoon workouts. Like, who's going to hire that person?
Right.
But they're like one of our best swimmers in our country, let alone the world, but they have to have a job, so it's mind blowing. It truly is. And it's like, a lot of people think that you're at your peak in college. No, I mean, I honestly think I'm more fit and in better shape now than I was when I was at my peak. Just what I know and what I can afford and how I eat and how I take care of myself. I mean, you get wiser each and every year, right? Sure. I was not eating well at freshman year at USC. You know what I mean? My social commitments were a little lopsided as well. You know what I mean? So it's just like, but the financial opportunities didn't allow you to really keep going. Right. I was one of the lucky few that had a contract. And that was very, very few at the time. So I'm thrilled to be a part of it. I'm optimistic. It's a lot of work, but I will hustle as hard as I can.
Yeah. No, it's really, it's like you described it. And in my research, I mean, it just seems like, I feel like you're going to be able to produce even better swimmers because you can have, this can be your job. Right. Where previously it was like, oh yeah, this is my sport. I'm going to the Olympics, but my job is, McDonald's or whatever.
Exactly. It's almost like if you don't hit the timing right with when you went to college and the Olympics, you're kind of like, oh, like if you just graduated and the Olympics aren't for another 3-4 years, like what do you do?
Right.
But you're like, I want to go for another Olympics. But if you seriously can't keep continuing because you're worried about getting that job, that's sad. It really is.
Yep. One of the other things I wanted to touch on was the Never Ever Give Up Foundation.
Yes.
I know nothing about it, and the little bit of research that I did on it, it just sounds so intriguing. So fill me in on that.
Yes. So the Jessie Rees Foundation, also known as NEGU or Never Ever Give Up, it was all started by an 11-year-old little girl named Jessie Rees. She was diagnosed with 2 inoperable brain tumors, and she's just a surreal, I just giggle because I'm just like, I can't believe what she started. So she was going through outpatient treatment at Chalk, and she was lucky that she didn't have to stay there for long periods of time. So her diagnosis was not good, right? So one day her parents, their world was obviously rocked and so much stress and sorrow on the family. And they were checking on Jessie one day in her bedroom, and she was taking, this brown paper bags that you would take your lunch in. She was decorating them, and she's putting her own toys in them.
Oh, wow.
And they're like, Jessie, what are you doing? And she's like, I want to take these back to the other kids in the hospital. I want to brighten their day. And our dad was just like, oh my gosh, and she's like, how can we help them? And her dad's like, here's my daughter who's basically just been given this terrible news, and she's thinking, how can I help the other kids? So her dad's like, are you serious about this? She's like, yeah, Daddy, I want to brighten days. So her middle name was Joy.
Oh, wow. So
they turned it into Joy Jars. They met with the hospitals to figure out what can we do, what can't we do, this is, my daughter is really serious about this. And, it was something that distracted the family as well while they're going through this. And they came up with Joy Jars, and they are 64-ounce containers. They're age and gender specific, and they're all hospital approved items, no candy or junk or anything like that. But it's meant to bring a boost of joy while in the hospitals. So for different ages, there's different things, but in general, we always like to have a beanie in there to keep their heads warm. And a lot of them are going through chemo, so obviously losing hair. The really fuzzy, cozy socks or the colorful socks, kids love socks. And again, being in these cold hospitals and just keeping them warm. Activity books, crayons for the older kids, earbuds, anything that you could really shove into this jar. And it's just it's filled. It's just it's not just 1 or 2 things in there. It's just massive. So Jessie fought for about 10 months before she passed away. And after she passed, her family wanted to continue what she had started, because her goal is that she wanted every single kid fighting cancer to get one of these Joy Jars. Wow. So I went on my first hospital visit just months after she passed away in 2012. And I was not sure what to expect. I hadn't spent much time in a hospital, let alone done a hospital visit. But, throughout the course of being at my prime of my career, you get asked to do a lot of things and a lot of charity events. And I always had a heart for it, but I always felt like it was kind of superficial because we would show up, do our thing, and leave, and then there's no real connection, if you will.
Right.
So with the Jessie Rees Foundation, Jessie was she was a swimmer herself. She was with the Mission Bayho and Adador. So that's actually how I got synced up with her, because the swimming community is very tight knit, and a family asked me if I would go to an event for her, and of course. And that's when I first met her and her father. And Eric has these crystal blue eyes, and it was kind of my first time I've ever experienced looking into somebody's eyes and just feeling their pain. And I felt so helpless, and I was just like, what can I do? And so it wasn't until after she passed that they reached out and asked if I would do this hospital visit. And again, like I said, I wasn't sure what to expect, and I didn't want to get sad, and I didn't want to like cry. I knew I had a job to come in and continue what Jessie started and to spread joy. And we were asked to bring our medals and wear some Olympic gear and pass out Jessie's joy jars. And as soon as I was done, I wanted to do more. It was just a surreal experience. And I truly mean it, that because everybody's like, well, isn't it sad? Like, don't you get sad? It's like, cancer sucks. Like, it's affected way too many people, and it hits home for a lot of people, and myself included. But the amount of good vibes and positive vibes that these children's it's surreal. These kids are so tough that they're over there encouraging and inspiring me. It was harder to see the parents. It was harder to see the grandparents. It's harder to see the siblings. Because, this is hard on them. These kids are just so resilient. And obviously there's some kids that are more engaging or feeling better and they want to hang out, they don't want to hang out, or some people love swimming and they want to talk, and some kids are just shy, so each room was a different experience. But I gotta say, Jessie knew what she was doing, because those joy jars really did light up a room. It was the perfect icebreaker. You're walking into a hospital room basically playing Santa Claus. I'm giving you toys. I'm not here to give you a shot or medication or deliver bad news. Like, I have something great for you, and that was the start of something. And from there, we the joy jar is obviously completely free. And then we asked these families to enter kind of like our database again for free, so we can continue to send boosts throughout the year, because the Rees family know that it is a long journey, and every little boost along the way helps. And if there's any way that we can bless these families, so knowing where they live. So if we have Angels tickets that are donated, we could look into our database and see who lives in the Anaheim area and be like, okay, we have these 2 tickets. Is your child feeling well enough to go? Can you attend? Different ways. And this is across the country. The joy jars are across the world. Wow. I was been a part of that foundation ever since 2012. I became the national spokesperson, and was kind of like the first professional athlete, if you will, to really go for it and try to get other athletes to come on board and to use our platform to make a difference. And as I alluded to earlier, you get asked to do a bunch of appearances and nothing really sticks. Right. So for me, this was about getting into the nitty gritty and really, really being a part of something and really embracing something and really using my platform to make a difference. So it was just asking people, do you want to come? Are you in the area? Do you have a heart for this? Because not everybody's comfortable in this setting either. And that's nothing against them. I totally get it. But there's a foundation for everybody out there. So it's like, find what you love and do it. And I've done over 160 hospital visits with this foundation over the years. These medals have traveled with me, pretty much all of them. Sometimes I'll bring 1 or sometimes I'll bring 3, but it's pretty cool because the foundation had medals made for the children. So they got to see mine. And it actually stemmed from a kid putting it on and not wanting to take it off. Okay. And I was like, oh gosh, how do I get this back?
Right.
And so, and we kind of started talking through it. So I'm like, we're going to make them a medal because they deserve the medal, right?
Yeah.
And so some of these kids will never get to play sports again or won't be able to win a medal. So to be able to leave them with one, just to be like, you deserve this because you are so strong and you are so determined and you're never ever going to give up. And a memento for us, like, don't forget the Jessie Rees Foundation is supporting you and cheering you on, and you're not alone. That's a lot of what we wanted these children and these families to know, that they're not going through this alone, because it's a very isolating process, and your world gets rocked. Yeah. So it's been pretty surreal to be a part of, and I have this book that is coming out.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit too.
Thank you. Well, what I was going to say is I love that I was able to really talk about this foundation, because it's important that people know that we exist. There's a lot of amazing foundations out there that it's all about finding the cure, but who's going to care on these kids before we have a cure? So being able to, again, share with whoever picks us up, the country, the world, whoever's buying my book, sharing about the Jessie Rees Foundation. So if they know somebody, or if they themselves are going through this, that there is a group of people that want to love on you and send you boosts of encouragement throughout the year. So it's been neat to be able to incorporate Jessie's story into my story. But it's such a huge part of my life. You had touched on it, what do you do after the Olympics? Right. Well, there was definitely that time in my life where I was lost. And it was just one of those things where one thing led to another. And I'm sitting down with Eric Rees, who was a pastor at Saddleback, and he helped people find their purpose in life. And it was just like, whoa, what are the odds? And then he said, well, do you want to do more of these hospital visits? So one thing led to another. So it was finding something that really filled that void in my life and filled up my passion cup, and being able to use that platform to help Jessie's story. It wasn't really about my story anymore. We used it. There's a parallel for sure. I mean, Jessie's mission was about never ever giving up. And between my 2004 Olympics, I had a lot of obstacles and adversities and injuries and illnesses and a car accident. There was just one thing after another. And I was like, but I never gave up. And the 2004 Olympics worked out amazing for me. And so Jessie's story of NIGU and my swimming story definitely coincide, but life after swimming was about being able to shed light on something else other than myself. So it's been pretty therapeutic going through this book. It was something I wanted to do for quite some time, but didn't really know how and didn't know when and didn't want it just to be about swimming. So I'm glad I took some time to see what kind of developed after. And it was about 3 years ago where the co-author Dan and I we reconnected at the Olympic trials where I was doing some things for hosting, and he was inquiring if I had any interest in doing a book. I was like, he was reading my mind. I was like, yes, don't know how to do it. Right. And he's like, let's do it together. And so it was amazing. It was surreal. And my mom actually was diagnosed with breast cancer. And yeah, that was, thank you, in 2015. And that was... talk about getting your world rocked, but she's doing awesome. She's doing so good. She just kicked butt. I'm so proud of her. But that was a time in my life where I took a major step back on things professionally and was just there for my family. And, you know, my two older sisters married with kids and had a lot going on in their lives. And just, I had just been married and my husband was super supportive, but obviously we don't have kids. And I was just kind of living at my parents' house and just helping my mom go through everything and all the appointments because she wanted my dad to continue to be at work and just be another set of hands and encouragement and making sure she was eating during the day. And that's when I spent a lot of time on the book. So it was very, like when I say therapeutical on so many levels, just to revisit the swimming portion of my life and to reread journals that I kept from the Olympics and to read my emotions that I was going through as like a 17-year-old representing the country. And then on a very emotional level, what my mom was going through. So everything at this time was just, I just a big believer that everything happens for a reason. So it was a good time in my life and it came together pretty quick. I mean, 3 years later and it comes out on the 15th. I'm just hoping to inspire and encourage and motivate people.
Well, and that's a little bit what we talked about earlier before we started, is that's kind of your dream in life, is to kind of become a motivational speaker and just kind of encourage people and tell me about that dream. I mean, that's really fun.
I mean, I've always been really comfortable with motivational speaking or just speaking in general. I think that has a lot to do with having success at a young age where you're kind of asked to do things at a young age. You know, I remember getting like my first hey, will you come speak to, it was a grade school right by my high school. Like it was like for the 4th grade. And I was like, I was 16 years old being asked to go talk to 4th graders. You know, I'm like, what do you want me to talk about? And they're just like, about, say no to drugs and make the right decisions and work hard. And I was like, oh, okay, I can do that. And I've never been the type of person that writes things down. I just get up and start talking. And I just had the comfort with it. I started loving it. And the older I got and the more comfortable I was with my own story and the more that my story developed, the more passionate I was about it because I feel like I can make it relatable. And I think that's the most important thing, is that I'm no superhuman. I put my pants on the same way that you do. I have my strengths, my weaknesses, my shortcomings, but there's something in me that's wired, to just go for it. And I feel like we are in a time where things are kind of negative. Mm-hmm. Social media is insane. Just the way that young girls compare themselves and boys, and not even young. I mean, our peers, what we're looking at, everybody's highlight reel on Instagram. And I just want to be somebody that pumps people up. You know what I mean? And I don't really know how else to say it. I just feel like in my story, I share that it wasn't always perfect, you know what I mean? And I share that it wasn't always gold medals and rainbows and butterflies and kittens. And I think that's what's relatable, right? Because I think that's something that we can all relate to in life. And personally too, there's days that I don't want to get out of bed either, and so if I could just be that voice or somebody that can inspire, encourage, motivate, I want to do that. I want to do that so badly. And I take it with pride, when people consider me a role model. That is definitely something that I don't take lightly. And the things that I think about when I'm out in public or what I'm posting on social media and whatnot. But at the same time, I want to be authentic and I want to be myself and I want people to know who I am and know that I'm confident in my skin. And I think a lot of that just goes back to parenting. My parents are just like surreal. Kind of like the biggest takeaway is, what type of parents did you have? And I was like, the kind that loved me no matter what. Right. And I say their unconditional love is what allowed me just to go for it, because I knew first place, last place, DQ'd, 16th place. My parents were not going to love me any more, any less.
Sure. My
love was not determined by these medals. I always joke that they love me more that I got a Florida scholarship. But that's a total joke. But it's like, work hard, kids. Work hard. It pays off, and your parents will love and appreciate that. But I just think this book is dedicated to my parents and my sisters. It takes a village, that's for sure.
So tell, as we're wrapping up here, tell me a little bit, is the book all about? Give me kind of the summary of what the book is.
Yeah, it's a little bit before, middle, during, after. I think people are always really curious, how I was raised, because I feel like that's a very common question from parents. Like, what were you like at 10? I was like crazy, had too much energy, loved candy, loved rollerblading. You know what I mean? What were your parents like? Super laid back. My parents, my mom wanted to find me the cutest bathing suits, and they matched my cap and goggles, so it's priorities. And the journey, because I did have success at a young age. But when I say I had success at a young age, I'm saying teenager, because there are kids that are awesome at 6 years old. And don't get me wrong, I won some stuff when I was 6, but I definitely went through that stage where everybody was bigger and faster than me. And there was a time in my life where I wanted to go to the World Cup. I didn't want to go to the Olympics. I wanted to be a soccer player. So it's the whole journey between the swimming part, the well-balanced, everything else in my life. And then really trying to emphasize the hardships too, because I think, if I wrote a book, I was just I'm awesome, I always win gold. Right. Who would want to read that? Yeah, totally. But I think it's important that we talk about the failures because it makes the success even sweeter. And even my swimming story doesn't end on a high note. I was going for a third Olympics and I didn't qualify. I got 8th. That was at Olympic trials. That does not make the Olympic team. Right. And that was due to injury and illnesses leading up 2 weeks and 2 months beforehand. And it was just didn't go as planned, but that's life, But
there's 4 years of life that's gone then.
Well, totally. And that the crazy part is I had never trained so hard or focused so much on swimming between 04 and 08. And I didn't make 08.
Wow.
You know what I mean? It just wasn't in the cards. And then what we just talked about, talking about, what's life after swimming? And, I was really honored because we were just going to self-release this book. This book, basically, if I would have just had it on a PDF form on my computer, I would have been happy with it. That would have been enough for me. I just wanted my story. Partly because I have a terrible memory, so I'm forgetting a lot of this stuff. My parents are worried about my memory. And we had enough of a rough draft and enough contacts to kind of, get it out there. And when Rowan and Lilyfield picked it up, they said the part of why they wanted to pick this book up is because it was more than just swimming. And so that part really meant a lot to me, because that's kind of what I'm about. It's I'm gonna milk the Olympian thing because it gives me a platform to share more than just that part. Right. You know what I mean? So I get to share about the Jessie Rees Foundation, and I get to share about my passions outside of the pool, and then what I did after swimming and what I'm still doing. Now I'm oh man, maybe this book came out too soon. Now I'm doing ISL and all these different opportunities. And I'm a partner in a fin company called Laguna Fin. And it's that's a new business hat for me to wear too. And so maybe this is the first of two. We'll see. But
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, that'd be kind of surreal. One. Yeah. And then touching a little bit on my personal life. People wanted to know about my husband. So there's a little short chapter about why he completes me and why he's perfect for me. And, we got married, quote unquote, late. I was 32, 1, 2, don't. I met him when I was 30. We've been married 4 years. So just kind of getting to know me a little bit more. So I again, what it comes down to, I hope it inspires and encourages. And if it doesn't, I'm sorry.
No.
But my mom really likes it, so I'm good.
That's awesome. Yeah. No, just the way you've been able to utilize your platform already, that's just
Thank
so
you.
cool. So, I've been a big hockey fan growing up back east, and that's one of the things that the NHL has been really good with, is about going into hospitals and kind of just lifting people's hearts and everything, and it just so it humanizes you, and I can't thank you enough for that. I mean, that's really,
it's like my honor though. Like every time like the Jessie Rees Foundation or like Jessie's grandfather's like, oh my gosh, Kaitlin, thank you so much. I'm like, no. Like, thank you. And like what you're saying, it's like, it's not hard for us. It's like 2 hours of the day. You know what I mean? It's like, might be a little bit of logistics, but it's just as rewarding for the person that's going in. And that's what's been cool with the Jessie Rees Foundation, is that it's encouraged other swimmers to do it and getting their feedback. Like, oh my God, Kaitlin, that was so amazing. Thank you so much. I'm like, yay, like you get it. But then there's some, like I had a girlfriend being like, Kaitlin, it's really hard for me. I can't do it. I'm like, totally get it. I totally get it. But you know what? You have a huge social media like following. Post about it on your social media and let's call it like square. You know what I mean? Like there's other ways to get involved. There's other ways to make a difference. And the thing that's so amazing about Jessie is that she was an 11-year-old girl when she started this.
Right.
She was an Olympian. She didn't have a blue check next to her name on Instagram. She didn't have $1 million. You know what I mean? Like an 11-year-old girl who was changing the world, making a difference. If an 11-year-old girl can make a difference, we can make a difference. No matter what your platform is. We all have the opportunity to make the world a better place.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming in today. It's very inspiring.
Thanks.
When does your book come out?
It's available pre-order, but July 15th is the celebration date. Looks like I'll be doing a Barnes & Noble event at Fashion Island on the 21st of July. Don't quote me. We're still working on it, but I'll let you know. And I'm going to do a book stop in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Going to go back to some of my latter roots in my swimming career, and the co-authors from Michigan as well. So we're going to do an event out there, and then just trying to just bring it along. We're going to be at the Nationals for USA Swimming at the end of this month. Be doing kind of like they do. I call it a talk show. It's like fun. I'm hosting a show before every night of finals for the Nationals, and I'll do an autograph signing out there as well. So, available on Amazon or through the publishing company and bookstores.
Cool. And we're recording this the week before, but we're going to be releasing this on the 16th. So Perfect. As of right now, the book's available.
The book is available. There you go. The book. Or don't, whatever.
If people want to get involved in NEGU, where do they find that?
Go to negu.org, and there's a bunch of different ways that you can get involved. If you love to golf, we have a great golfing charity event coming up in September. We always have a beautiful gala, usually in March or April at the Disneyland Hotel. If you want to donate, obviously, we need money. I know that sounds so greedy, and I'm so uncomfortable in that setting, but you guys get it. It's a nonprofit. We need the money to stuff these joy jars and send them across the world. If your corporation wants to get involved, if you want to stuff the joy jars, if you want to volunteer at the Jessie Rees Foundation, which is located in Irvine, a lot of different opportunities just by going to negu.org.
Okay. And then how about a little bit more? How can we connect with you?
You can go to my website, KaitlinSandeno.com, or I'm on all social media platforms. Love social media. Kaitlin Sandeno on all of those. And website, social media, Facebook, you name it. I'm around.
Cool. Well, you'll be easy to find.
Yeah, hopefully, if you can spell Sandeno right.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks for listening to the Ask the Masters podcast. And don't forget to check out our Facebook page each week on Tuesdays for new episodes of the show. I also want to encourage you to stop by the Ask the Masters Facebook page and invite other like-minded individuals to join us there as well. Feel free to jump into the conversations and even post your own questions. We want to create a community which fosters learning and discovery for the betterment of us all. You can also subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify. Please be sure to subscribe and feel free to share.